absolutely ridiculous. They'll believe anything. They'll believe anything. Maybe. Hate speech.
Hate speech.
What does this term mean to you? I'm 42 years old, and hate speech is a relatively new thing for me. It's something I'd never known about or thought about, but it seems to be gaining more and more prominence in society. I hear this term a lot more. So what does this mean to you guys?
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, we're going to get into this in a minute, but I think before we do, I forgot something. Let's just say it to everybody. What do we need to do? We need to, Abby?
分享、按赞、订阅
In English
That-
better.
Share, like,
And subscribe.
Subscribe.
and subscribe.
Yeah. So it really helps us. If you think we're talking about something and it's funny or informative or just anything, please share it with a friend. It really helps us. And yeah, the more you do, the better quality we can give you guys. So let's get to that question though, right? So Abby, you were saying, I interrupted you there. What does hate speech mean to you?
I think it's like a extreme comment to some certain of group or some kind of culture. Like it's really extreme and non-logic. It might hurt people,
Okay, all right.
but I think it's hard to define. Just
okay.
that
And
is-
what about you, Beta? What do you think hate speech means?
Unlike you, I'm against the idea of hate speech, but in terms of definition, classically, that might be some biased speech against a certain group of people based on their color, race, religion, things like that.
Okay. It actually seems to be a little bit connected to what is that term? Political correctness.
Yeah, could be.
Okay. So, I mean, if we look at it here, so let's look at the monitor. It is abusive or threatening speech or writing that expresses prejudice against a particular group, especially on the basis of race, religion, or sexual orientation.
Yeah.
All right. So, I think I kind of see what that means, but what can we think of as examples? Like, what would be an example of this hate speech? What, have you guys heard any?
Yeah, so some are not that extreme, but there's a very common expression in Taiwan that Hakka people are usually very cheap in terms of spending, in terms of sharing. Yeah,
I mean, when I was a kid, people would say that about Jewish people in South Africa.
yeah.
Whether or not it's true. I'm not saying that that's true or isn't true, but I heard that.
Mm-hmm.
But is that bad to say?
I think if you are you are a member of that group, you might feel uncomfortable. But
Okay. But what if it's objectively true? What happens if there's a certain group of people who don't have that much money, and when they buy things in general, they do behave kind of in a cheap way, and people who interact with them see this and make a generalization about the group and say that as a statement of objective fact? Is that hate speech?
give it a label.
Yeah, I mean, like, because what happens if the majority of people in that group do behave in that way? So just to point that out, is that hate speech?
I feel so again, I'm against the idea of hate speech, but I think the origin of this idea is because people want to make sure that we don't judge people based on a stereotype. So we judge people based on what this person behave, what this person say, instead of the stereotype of this group. The stereotype might be true, and in fact, in a lot of the cases, it's true. But yeah, I think that's the origin of this concept, which is like
They want to make people feel comfortable.
yeah, to encourage people to treat other in a nice way instead of just like jumping to a conclusion directly.
Okay, so what you're saying there is that the kind of origin of this is
Yeah.
positive. It's
Yeah.
there to make people feel kind of comfortable.
Yeah,
right?
but this idea evolves, I feel it's over the line right now.
Sure. So my older brother tells me a story often about South Africans. So when apartheid ended, when the because the black people were kind of oppressing. I mean, the white people were oppressing the black people in South Africa. And when that ended, like South Africans were traveling overseas, and he said to me that people from South Africa had this reputation for being very hard workers. And there was a generalization about South Africans. I'm sure they weren't all hard workers, but there was this generalization that was going around about South Africans being hard workers. That seems to me to be the other side of that thing. And again, I have no problem with either one, because if you experience like a number of people from a certain culture and you say, ooh, they are like that, to me, I don't see that as being hateful at all, or in the positive. I don't see a problem with both. Like for me, it's okay both ways, right? Like you can develop a reputation. So those South Africans who were traveling obviously behaved in that way and built up a reputation. And then if you've behaved in a good way, why shouldn't you enjoy the fruits of that? For me.
Yeah, I think logically the like good stereotype and negative stereotype, positive stereotype and negative stereotype, logically they are the same. But people only feel bad when like receiving, like being judged by negative stereotype.
Sure,
So-
but good and bad is subjective.
Yeah,
So those are
they,
very
they
clear.
are actually the same.
But what happens when you're getting close to the line? Whereas I look at a characteristic that's been generalized as positive, but Abby looks at that same characteristics and thinks it's negative. So now people might say, right, so according to Abby, if she believed in this concept, I shouldn't be able to make that generalization. But then to me, I look at that generalization as positive. How will we know which people are offended or feel positive about something? So when it gets close to the line, how are you going to police this?
Yeah, like Asians are always good about in mathematics.
Yeah, I've said this to people,
Yes.
but it doesn't seem to really be true. Some are, some aren't,
Some-
right? But I mean, if Asians have done a good job with math, why shouldn't they be able to utilize that or benefit from that good reputation, right? Because that means that the parents in the culture have pushed the kids to study very hard and they've built up a good reputation. Like, surely you should be rewarded for all of that hard work. And what happens, let's say, if there's a group of people who actually have done bad things?
A group of people.
Yeah, let's say
done
there's
bad.
a group of people, like a particular race or whoever, and just for some reason, it's not through the entire history, but for a certain period of time, they behaved badly. Like, do they deserve to have to deal with that stereotype for a while? Because it seems to me that in today's society, white people, society seems to go back to certain points in history and not further back. And they go back to some point where white people have done something. And now white people seem to be living through this stereotype of being racists and colonizers and
privilege.
everything. Even though if you go further back in time, other races also did slavery and things.
Yeah.
So it seems to be that these same people who are pushing hate speech are okay when the hate speech is pointed at white people or white men specifically, but they're not okay when it's pointed at someone else. Seems like a double standard to me.
Okay. Oh, I think hate speech means they use a strong word like a curse them or just say something really bad like tell them to death.
Well, sure, but if you search Twitter,
But
you'll
if-
find stuff. Oh, sorry to interrupt. You'll find stuff all the time saying all white people are racist, and that never gets deleted from Twitter.
Oh, but this connected to hate speech.
I think that's
This
well.
kind of hate speech.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then it's not policed fairly on both sides.
Yeah,
right?
it's not
yeah.
fair.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of like back to 16th, 17th century, a lot of black slavery who got shipped to America was initially sold by black people.
Yeah, it was the black people
Oh,
selling
yes,
them.
yes,
yeah.
yes.
that's
Mm.
that's
I mean, if you think about it logically, it makes sense, right? So let's say there were some white people in America who went on a ship, and those old wooden ships were brutal. So you'd travel a few weeks or months to get to Africa. By that time, your body wouldn't be good. You might have scurvy, some of the sicknesses.
Yes.
And now you're expecting those guys to land and start running through the bush, chasing the people who live there, who know the land well. I don't think they'd catch them, to be honest, right? You needed to buy them from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But they conveniently seem to forget those facts, right? And many of the races have had slaves. And even in the world right now, there are still slaves.
Yeah.
But somehow they only want to focus on certain slaves from certain periods of time because it seems to be convenient in some way for them in some way.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. So anyway, there is a reason why I wanted to talk about hate speech. So I want to show you guys some speech that was on Twitter. And you could tell me if you think this is hateful. It's going to be related to gender rather than race. Okay? So let's have a look here. And I've blocked out for a reason who said this. Dress however you please. Call yourself whatever you like. Sleep with any consenting adult who'll have you. Live your best life in peace and security. But force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real? Strange. Is this hate speech?
The last sentence, stating that sex is
Okay, so
real.
just-
What's that mean?
Okay, so just to give you some context, the person who wrote this was supporting a woman who'd lost her job, and that woman believes that biological sex is real. It's her opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But is that hate speech at all? Is that from what you guys can see written here?
It's
For me, it's not.
It's not. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first one, right? Let's look. This is from the same person. The idea that women like me, who now you know it's a woman, who've been empathetic to trans people for decades, feeling kinship because kinship is like together with them, because they're vulnerable in the same way as women, i.e. to male violence or hate trans people, because they think sex is real and has lived consequences, is a nonsense. Is that hate speech?
No.
It sounds like
No,
someone
for me.
saying listen, I've been empathetic with trans people. Right? Then look at the next part. I respect every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. I'd march with you if you were discriminated against on the basis of being trans. At the same time, my life has been shaped by being female. I do not believe it's hateful to say so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's just like. for
Seems
me,
okay?
It's a fact. It's just a truth. Like
All right.
yeah.
Let's look at the third one. If sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth.
Yes,
How about this one?
I agree. Just yeah, we
Seems okay?
Yeah.
seems okay. Seems
Seems okay.
peaceful.
A lot of people don't think so.
Why?
Yeah,
Which
yeah, I know.
I know they're gonna.
Does anyone know who it is yet?
Which sentence? Is this so
Not
real?
100% sure about. I don't know.
Maybe
Is it
a
about JK
concept.
Rowling?
It is correct. Well done. It's about JK Rowling, the person who wrote Harry Potter. All right. So, talking about Harry Potter is about to have their 20-year reunion.
20 year?
And guess what? JK Rowling is not invited.
Huh?
JK Rowling is not invited for some of these tweets that I've just read. you.
Reunion.
Isn't
It's
that a bit
weird that
strange?
she's original author.
So the woman that she supported is a woman called Maya Forstater.
Maya Forest.
Now, I'm not saying, please, YouTube or anybody listening to this, I'm not saying that I do or disagree with Maya Forstater. All right? Maya Forstater has views on gender. Okay? Maya Forstater, I think, believes that there are two genders. Okay? She doesn't believe that a man can change into a woman or a woman can change into a man. We're not here to talk about if that's real or isn't real. But for me, I will fight for her right to have her opinion. I don't think that anybody can say that this discussion is over, that you can prove this either way. So I don't think we should allow some people to talk about trans rights, but then on the other side, not allow other people to talk about what their opinions are, because it's hard to prove this.
Let them find balance.
So this woman, Maya Forstater, she lost her job because of tweets. This is her. Okay. And, she lost her job after expressing views that sex cannot be changed and transgender women are not women. Okay? So she lost her job, but then she, I think, lost the first court case, but then later this case has been overturned. And one of the people who supported her rights was JK Rowling. All right? So now JK Rowling is not going to be allowed to be at the 20-year reunion. I mean, this is the thing that she created, right? She's the person who made the whole Harry Potter thing possible, right? And what do you guys think about this?
I think it's gonna slice these people. It's just,
Slice?
not slice, silence.
Yeah, we're going to slice people. Okay. Okay, so it's going to silence who?
Silence the the opposite opinion. Like
Yeah,
they want to
big time,
protect
right?
the minority, but if you say anything might hurt the minority, you're gonna be hateful. You're gonna have hate speech. They label it like a hate speech, but
Okay.
actually it's not.
Okay, what about you, Beto? What do you think?
I feel this is just another show of cancel culture again, and I feel it's a real pity that people judge a thing based on the person's background and other stuff instead of the work, instead of focusing on a limited scope. So, for example, for this 20-year Harry Potter reunion thing, I feel people should just view the staff based on the work they have done for the classic. Instead of just inspecting each one's political standards, their political position, their views on gender, their views on social equality, and etc. That those things are not related to Harry Potter at all.
Yeah, separated, right?
Yeah. If you need to judge everyone, no one is a saint. I mean, so if you need to judge every person in that detailed perspective, you need to ban everyone from Harry Potter.
Yeah, and I think it's unfair to erase all of the effort and the hard working of JK Rowling.
Sure.
Because just she says something like a certain group don't like it.
Sure, because I mean that's her view, right?
Yeah,
And why is her view any less valid than other people's? Just because some people are trying to push society forward and they believe in trans rights, there's no way for them to prove that that's actually the right way. We don't know. This is I think a relatively new thing because of the scale that it's happening on now, right? So like let's say let's change this. Are you allowed to not like a certain race? Could you say I don't like black people? Are you allowed to do this? If we're not saying anybody's saying that, we're just saying, are you allowed to? If you wanted to, okay, are you allowed to have that opinion? Are you allowed to say that?
Sure.
For me, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's
People actually have been saying that. I don't like people who are shorter than me. I don't like people who are 10 years older than me.
Yeah,
people have been saying that all the time.
Yeah,
and there might be
preference, right?
Yeah, there might be a nationality or a race
Yes.
that when you interact with a lot of people from that nationality or race, you just think, these people aren't for me.
I just don't like some certain type of people, right?
Yeah.
So surely what's bad is if you then treat those people negatively. You don't give those people, because you don't like them, you don't give them jobs, and it's unfair, or you demean them in some way. That would be bad. But if you just don't like a certain group of people, why not? Why can't you? Why don't you have that right? Why do these people want to force us to say certain things? Because even if they force you to say it, it doesn't mean you believe it.
Yes.
And then what happens to that idea? You'll probably find other people with similar ideas, and you'll talk quietly when no one can see you. And then it's kind of like fungus grows in the dark, right? Bad ideas will grow, and if there are bad ideas, and then you're not stopping them anyway, you're just removing them from being seen. So it doesn't seem to be a solution. If what these people really want is to deal with negative views, this doesn't seem to be a way that will actually do that.
Yeah, and you mentioned a very good point. It's just it's a paradox because these people would against if an employer says, "Oh, because you support Democrats, so I'm not gonna to hire you," and they hate this kind of situation. But they are doing the same. They ban JK Rowling. They just ban her from a potential job because of her like political position or on gender issue. That's logically the same. That's
Sure.
and yeah, that's a paradox.
And isn't there a kind of hubris or arrogance here, which is saying that you need to believe what I believe. What I believe is right, and what you believe is wrong. And I need to teach you my belief.
Yeah, exactly.
They are not allowed different opinions
Yeah.
from them.
But then they automatically have this default belief that they are right. And I have a huge issue with that, right? I mean, it's like if you want to try and discuss it with me, like you should at least leave the door open that I could convince you of my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
yes.
You know, and that maybe you could convince me of yours, but at least we're meeting as equals because there's no real way to prove this. But they don't approach it like this. They're saying, this is what I believe. I am right. You will follow. You will say what I say. And if you don't, we're going to punish you. We're going to remove your right to speak. We might help you to lose your job in some kind of way and defame you. That seems to be pretty extreme, right?
Like a one-way direction to talk.
So how do you think the people who were involved with Harry Potter reacted?
You mean those
the
actors?
How do you think the actors reacted to this, right?
I don't know. I think because they are famous, their comment might be controlled by their agency. So
Possibly.
Yeah. But if it's Emma Watson, I think she might support JK Rowling. I don't know.
Okay, well, I've seen Emma Watson's one. I haven't got it loaded up, but I'll load it up in a minute because I know I can find it. I saw it a lot. But let's go to Harry and then the other guy. What is his name? Redmayne.
Redmayne is which one?
I think Redmayne is the guy who's in some of the newer ones, the spin-off of Harry Potter. I think. Let's see if
Google.
Oh yeah, this guy.
Who?
He's in some of the newer ones, the Fantastic Beasts or something like that.
The main
right?
actor.
Yeah, so let's have a look. Mr. Redmayne said, as someone who has worked with both JK Rowling and members of the trans community, I wanted to make it absolutely clear where I stand. Trans women are women. Trans men are men. And non-binary identities are valid. And Harry said simply, transgender women are women.
Why they can just
I think
transgender woman just transgender woman.
For me, I think it's okay that they express their opinion. But the issue is
it's not about the opinion, right?
It's not about opinion.
It's stopping her from
about
going
canceling others' opinion.
Yes.
Sure. And then let's change this a little bit. Let's just quickly discuss this idea that they're saying, right? Transgender women are women. Is this a view that you guys think will benefit our society? Because that's what I think JK Rowling was going for, right? So like if we start saying, so let's say if it's me, right? Let's say I one day believe that I'm a woman, right? And am I now a woman?
According to what I say, you are a woman
According
now.
to them,
Yeah.
but what would the effects of this be?
I think it affects women.
Okay, what do
It
you
will
mean?
affect like a biological woman.
Okay, what do you mean?
Because when we went to public toilet, you like transgender woman could also use the same bathroom as me, like us. But
you don't want me in the bathroom.
No, you can pee. You have rights. But it's just like for me, it's not safety, not security, because you don't know if this transgender woman is fake. If he's just a real man, but pretend he's transgender woman, you know. So I think it's kind of unsecurity for biological woman. I don't know how to say, but just yeah.
Sure.
biological.
So I mean, like for me, like if there is a person who truly believes they are the other gender, I have a lot of empathy for that person because to feel that uncomfortable in the skin that you're in can't be easy, right? And I would also question those, like Beta, like we're both guys. I cannot imagine what it is like to be you. I know that there is so much nuance to who you are that I don't think I could ever truly understand what it's like to be you. And you're another guy. So I don't understand how I can imagine that I accurately know what it's like to be a woman. Even if I felt like I was deep down a woman, how do I know if that's real or not? Like I have a lot of questions. But as I said, I have a lot of empathy for these people, right? But then
Struggling.
how would we be able to check who was being real and who wasn't? And what I mean is like some person might say, there's a guy and he says, I'm a woman. And he might change a year later and say, well, I was wrong, right? And there might also, because there are always people who abuse the system, what are we going to do for people who try to get benefits in some way from this, right? Like what happens if I was a sexual predator and I thought, hey, this is a great way for me to piggyback on this movement and get closer to women by going into the bathroom with Abby? How are we going to know who is legit, who feels like this, and who's taken advantage? And then if we do this, who are the victims going to be? Because we can't judge. And now some people possibly would take advantage, and then some people would get hurt. In America recently, in Loudoun County, there was that guy. I don't think he was trans, but he put on a skirt and he went into the women's bathroom, the girls' bathroom at the school, and he assaulted a girl. And then the school covered it up. And then he did it again and he raped a girl. And the girl's father complained and got arrested. And luckily the father got the girl to go to the hospital and have a rape kit. And they found out, yes, that this girl was raped.
Oh my.
And this wasn't, from what I understand, a trans person. It was just a dude wearing a skirt. But how are we ever going to know?
Yeah. How can we identify or judge that?
And the school seems to have covered it up because they were trying to protect the ideology.
They don't want people to say, hey, you are not political correct.
Something like
I
that,
think,
yeah. So, I mean, it just seems that if we allow this kind of thing, we're going to be really opening the door to some problems. And that's possibly going to hurt the trans people too. The people who are legit, who feel that way, will also be put in the same category as those bad people. It might even hurt them as well.
Yeah, might hurt them.
I don't see how how there's a way forward with this.
Because some people abuse the system and it hurt the transgender group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are also nuances in the transgender group, right? So like I follow a transgender woman on YouTube, Blair White. And I've listened to her talk and she seems fantastic. But she says there are only two genders.
Okay.
And that's what she believes. So it's not all trans people believe that if you're a trans woman, you're a woman, because she says, I'm a trans woman. And for me, I like that. I got no issue. If you say, listen, I'm a trans woman, I'll say, okay, you're a trans woman. Great. But if you say, I'm a woman, but then we go to the bathroom and I see a penis, I'm going to be confused.
Yes.
So why not just say objective reality? What are you? A trans woman, a trans man?
Why don't they accept it they are trans women?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea why they are so offended by trans women, because it's truth.
I think it almost seems like these people want to bully others into accepting their opinions for some reason. Whereas why would you have a problem saying you're a trans woman or a trans man? Why does it have to be that you got to force other people to say that you are something that is against objective reality? It seems that it's more about the forcing than about the reality of this thing. And that's what it seems to be like in society now. There seems to be this authoritarianism, this thing of like trying to push people to say something or not say something. And I don't know where that seems to come from. It seems to be a kind of bullying.
Bullying.
forcing other people to say certain things.
You
And
mean
maybe
they
you get power by doing that, maybe.
play victim? They are trying to being a victim so that people can listen to them.
Mhm.
They probably want their voice to be heard. So that's a way to use it.
Yeah, and I mean there is stuff. I'm just loading it up here to show you. If we talk about this victimhood thing, look at this article. More than a third of white students lie about their race on college applications, survey finds. Why would white people, students trying to get into college, lie about their race and try and be a minority?
Maybe first they don't want to be called like white privilege, or second it can get more benefit from being a minority.
It's because of affirmative action. It's easier to get into schools when you say that you're not white, right?
Oh, it's like our school system.
Yeah.
If you are
Yeah.
原住民,
Yeah.
how to say 原住民?
Aboriginal.
Yeah.
Aboriginal, you can get like 30% of the
Yeah.
grades.
Yeah.
When you are test
Yeah.
to university, you can like extra 30%. So some people they will try because their father is Taiwanese and mother is how to say Aboriginal.
Mhm.
So in the document, government's document, like the child is belongs to the father, so it's Taiwanese. But for the grade, they gonna change to their mother's Aboriginal, so
Sure.
they can get it.
But I mean, white privilege seems to be so awesome that people are lying to say they're not white. It doesn't really make too much sense to me, right? Because if white privilege was really true, then surely you'd be saying, I'm white! But no, you're like saying, I'm not white. And because you know that it will get you a benefit by saying you're not white. So how does that white privilege seem to make sense? I don't
Very-
get it.
yeah.
It's strange, right? It's quite a conundrum to figure this one out, right?
White privilege is
Yeah.
a new victim.
And I think one of the people pushing the critical race theory is this guy, Abram Kendi or something.
Everyone
And he actually tweeted about this a few weeks ago and very quickly deleted the tweet. I don't think he realized as he tweeted it that it actually disproved his argument about white privilege. And that's why he quickly deleted it. But yeah, it's interesting, right? There are just so many things now that are about being victims and being a special group or this or that. It's hard to see.
For me, I think it's okay if a group wanted to play victim as like a sort of promotion, their propaganda. Yeah, I think I would consider that as just a form of approach to achieve their goal. What I have issue with is the forcing part, like banning the others' opinion, like forcing others to follow their agenda, and totally fine if like the actors of Harry Potter wanted to express their opinion, or if transgender people wanted to say unreal woman. I'm totally fine with that. What I have issues is that they cannot limit others' right to express their ideas in the name of their own identity.
Sure.
Yeah.
But actually, guys, this story gets worse. Okay, so have a look at this. Some of these activists, okay, went to JK Rowling's house and tried to post pictures outside her house that showed her address so that people would be able to find her.
No.
So she wrote here, last Friday, my family's address was posted on Twitter by 3 activist actors who took pictures of themselves in front of our house, carefully positioning themselves to ensure that our address was visible. It's called doxing, right? And you can see what's happened from this. She says here, I have to assume that these people thought doxing me, which is showing my address, would intimidate me out of speaking up for women's sex-based rights. They should have reflected on the fact that I've now received so many death threats, I could paper the house with them. And I haven't stopped speaking out. Perhaps, and I'm just throwing this out there, the best way to prove your movement isn't a threat to women is to stop stalking, harassing, and threatening us. So it's it's not bad enough that these people got her to not go to the 20-year reunion. Now they're sending her death threats. But I thought that these people, these activists, were the ones saying they're fighting for people's rights. So they're fighting because they believe that they are the ones who are in the right and doing the right thing. How is death threats? How does that prove that your ideology is the right one when someone doesn't agree with you and you threaten to kill them and then post their address online?
Yeah, it's like environmental terrorist.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they really support the transgender ideas. They just have some lots of negative emotion and want to express. So that's just an excuse for them
To bully people.
to bully people. Yeah, they just try to find someone and punch them to like relieve their pressure.
So do you think this has got something to do with social media? That you can post this on social media and
It's
get
very-
attention?
Yeah, it's very easy.
Like, look what I did. I got this person cancelled, or I did this, and now you're going to get a whole lot of likes, and that's
Yeah.
how you get power from doing this?
you get power. You think you're doing the justice, and you get you get a high dopamine rate increase. So you think you're doing a good thing, but just posting the pictures, very simple, and you will not get punished because you are no one. I think so.
Yeah, it seems like I mean, instead of doing this, they should do something positive for people to get attention and maybe embody good values when they're doing things. Because how can you look at yourself in the mirror and feel like you're doing something great when you're sending death threats to people?
Yes.
Like, how do you feel good about doing that? And then if you say, oh, but that's because that person's hateful. Okay, so you believe that person's hateful, and your answer is to be even more hateful. I mean, this doesn't make sense to me,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and looks like couldn't like solve the problems, right? It couldn't
Yeah.
help with the whole situation.
Sure. So I have one more thing I wanted to show you, and it's linked to this issue. Look what's happened with the International Olympic Committee recently, right?
I mean, the Japan.
So November 18th, this is very current. So they've now said that they've made new guidelines for transgender athletes. All right. So, and that says here, everyone, regardless of gender identity, expression, and/or sex variance, should be able to participate in sports safely and without prejudice. Okay. And if you go a bit down here, you'll see what they're doing. They're saying, in recent years, the IOC has required elite transgender female and intersex athletes to suppress naturally high testosterone levels in order to compete in women's sports. The new guideline or guidance changes course. It says there should be no presumption that trans female athletes have a natural advantage over cisgender women. So now, I mean, so in the past, I think what you needed to do was to take medicine and show that your male hormone level was low a year before the competition. I think now they want to get rid of this. So literally, if you go back to me, if I now discovered that I was not happy being a guy and actually I was a woman and I was a really good athlete, I could go and compete against biological women.
Yeah, I read the news about like, I believe that's UFC or another like fighting competition.
It was UFC,
Another,
I think.
yeah, UFC. A transgender woman who just received the like 3-month training, beat up the former champion.
Dude,
Yeah,
she beat up is
former biological woman champion.
she didn't
Like,
just beat her up.
in 2 rounds. Just
Did she?
Wow.
yeah,
Like, she really hurt that girl.
Yeah.
Because I saw someone go into a campus in America, a university campus, with the iPad, and they were showing, and they showed girls the video of this girl getting beat down. And you know how these girls reacted? They said, yeah, that's fine. She should train harder.
Oh, but
And
it's different, right?
Really?
Just
Like-
it's
Yeah.
biological.
yeah, biological is unfair.
So
Yeah.
it seems like women are suffering, right? Like biological women are the ones who are going to suffer from us. I thought we spent all this time in the last 30, 40, 50 years
Yeah.
trying to fight for women's rights. How is this women's rights? But it's because it seems that the top of the victim pyramid is the transgender. So for this very small minority of people, this massive majority of people, which is biological women, are going to now be suffering from this. It's a very strange way of looking at the world, right?
Yeah, I mean there is disabled Olympics.
Sure.
So why and people don't force like non-disabled people to lower their competition standard.
That's a good point.
In order to compete with disabled athletes. So how come there couldn't be another like transgender Olympic?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd support that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I think they should have their rights to participate in competitions to enjoy the benefits of sports. But I'm totally for the idea of having their own league, having their own competitions, and sponsor the sports as well. I believe there will be business interest as well.
Sure. So what we're saying is we would support these people to have their own league, but it seems like not all of these people, but a lot of them would actually attack us for that because of the bullying thing. They want to force us to say, no, you are men, you are women. And then they wouldn't even get our support. So they have our support already, but then based on their actions, they would like reject that support just because they want to force us to say a certain thing. And, that doesn't make sense to me, right? Like, I mean, society should change gradually over time, and it should be, I thought we live in democracy, right? Where it's the majority decides things, not the minority. So it's interesting, right? Interesting discussion to talk about. I mean, I think this is going to really be coming out a lot more.
Yeah, I think there are some backlashing recently. I believe I read a report from, I'm not sure if it's from New York Times or Wall Street Journal, but a bunch of feminists and activists are actually like starting to be against the new transgender movement.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I think that the feminists definitely, because it makes sense, right? Because it seems to be that women, the biological women, are the ones being hurt by this. So it makes sense that feminists would be
against them.
Against that, right? Yeah. All right. So I'd love to know if you guys can put a comment. Let us know what you think. Obviously, I don't think we're saying what's right or what's wrong. We're just saying our opinions, and I think I can speak for all of us. It just seems that we're a bit confused. Right, by this. It seems a bit confusing for us. So
like you don't know what we believe, what we think it can, like a judge make a judgment. It's like a kind of different from before. You're kind of shaking.
Yeah, but I would just say that the answer to this is discussion, not hate.
Yes.
The answer to this is let's see what we can do. And maybe there's a way to find a solution that actually everybody can kind of be happy with.
Yes.
So please, let's talk about this. Let's encourage more discussion, right?
Yeah, truth can only prevail in discussions.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to our next topic.
Yeah.
Okay.